What's up, y'all? This is the Gospel according to Mark with a C. He is I and I am he, just taking some time to tell you what's on my mind. Check it out. Listen, I want to kick it off by thanking all of the subscribers. You know, we have a few new ones I noticed in the last few days, you know, since I've been on. Brother's been very, very busy at work, and it's just crazy. I do a lot of overtime, and, you know, when I get some extra time, of course, I'm trying to, you know, work things out, you know, with my son and everything like that, with his homework and his schoolwork and parenting, bro. You know, that's all it is, you know, so there hasn't been a lot of time to be uploading any videos, even though I have been watching, you know, all of the stuff that's been going on, you know, with the beefs and stuff like that on Twitter, and, you know, some of these bullshit online articles that have been like disrespecting Star Wars fans. And listen, it made me think, you know, it put me in this frame of mind where I'm saying to myself, you know something, this shit is not new. This has been going on with Star Wars fans since the beginning of the franchise. You know, it was never cool to be a Star Wars fan. Remember, guys, back in the day when, you know, to be a Star Wars fan and to admit that you were a Star Wars fan meant that you opened yourself up to ridicule, you know, and disrespect and things like that. And, you know, we learned how to have thick skin. We learned how to take it because we actually love Star Wars. So these people on the outside just didn't understand, you know, but we sustained, those of us who love the franchise, you know, we sustained it for, like, what, years, you know, until the prequels came along. And, you know, these people, like I said, we were the butt of all these jokes. We were nerds, we were geeks, we were all these types of things. And, we kept it going, you know, for all these years. Now, the funny thing about it in 2018, you know, in this generation here, is that they want to open it up to all the people who used to ridicule us back in the day. They want to open it up to everybody. They want to make, they want to go out of their way to make it accessible to all women, when the story actually doesn't appeal to all women. It doesn't appeal to all men. It's a very specific type of person who loves Star Wars. And that's what they don't understand. If they understood that, for example, they wouldn't put out a casting call for an African American woman. Somebody at Lucasfilm should have said, hey, look, fuckface, they're in a galaxy far, far away. There cannot be an African American woman because, number one, there's no Africa, and number two, there's no America. Understand, there are just beings. Are you following me? It's like you're putting a nationality into a galaxy far, far away where these nationalities don't exist. So Star Wars is like the one property where you shouldn't be able to do that. Like the one story where you shouldn't be able to inject nationality and race into your story. I could see if you were doing a reality-based kind of story, you know, where, you know, I don't know, terms of endearment or some bullshit like that. Okay, the character's got to be African-American, or the character's got to be white, or the character's got to be Spanish, or the character's got to be a werewolf. I don't know what the fuck. But anyway, when you deal with Star Wars, it's not like that. And if anyone had any understanding in casting, then they would have said, oh, putting out a casting call for an African-American woman actually goes against the universe that we're trying to tell this story in. This is a situation where the character has to be read, the character, like, this is the ultimate when it comes to attracting people of talent, because the casting call should be wide open. We have this character, people come in and read for it. You know, whoever feels the most natural, you know, whoever's bringing the most to it, well then great, you know, but it deals with and depends upon the talent of the individual. You understand what I'm saying? So over the years, when you think about what Star Wars fans have gone through, it's no wonder why people on the outside think that, oh, it's such an atrocity that white men are the ones who are directing and writing and all that shit, because over the years, you put these people into a box. You know what I mean? They didn't put themselves in a box. You ridiculed them into a box. You ridiculed them into an exclusive community. Who was going to these conventions for all of the years between Return of the Jedi and the prequels, and then from the prequels to The Force Awakens? Who's been keeping this shit alive? You know, and when you look at Mark Hamill's been out there, you know, he's been a super fan, he's been super kind and gracious to the fans, and he's like a treasure, you know, to a lot of the fans. You know, so when you get this new scenario, when you get, you know, a dumb idiot like Rian Johnson, the blockhead, who wants to tell Mark Hamill, what would you do, motherfucker? Well, you should have considered that before your dumbass even wrote your fucking half-ass script. You know, but no. So now we find ourselves in a position like this. So what I want to say to all Star Wars fans, all of them, because, you know, for all the talk about how the fandom has been split, I want everyone on whatever side you're on, if you like the Last Jedi, if you hate The Last Jedi, I want you to understand something. This is no longer exclusively about The Last Jedi. If you read these articles where they're criticizing Star Wars fans, you will see that there is a running theme of disrespect for Star Wars fans in these articles. Read some of these articles, you know, and see how they ridicule and they disrespect and they belittle the values of Star Wars fans. They're not just talking about the ones who didn't like the movie. They're talking about Star Wars fans. And these are the people who are in the creative process these days, like Rian Johnson. Why the fuck should Rian Johnson even have been offered a trilogy? He shouldn't have been offered the very first film that he did, because clearly that man did not watch the original trilogy. He tries to get in interviews and say, oh yeah, I was a fan, I played with the toys. The fuck you did, man. I don't believe you. Okay? I don't. Maybe you did, but I don't believe you, because it doesn't show in your art and it doesn't show in your interviews. A Star Wars fan, when he refers to fans, wouldn't say something like, ah, the delicious tears of the fanboys. You know what I mean? It's disrespectful, and all fans need to understand this. This is the house that we built. It belongs to us. It doesn't belong to them. You know, and unfortunately, it's been infiltrated by people who have no working knowledge or love for Star Wars. And this is why it shows. It's like the people who are on the front lines, you know, the YouTube content creators who are out here today, who are being vocal in their criticism. Listen, we don't just want to hate Star Wars. Stop believing that bullshit. It kills me to know that there are going to be new Star Wars movies that are coming out, and I'm not going to be sitting right there watching them. You know, it bothers me, man. It's like this is supposed to be an event, but what we're getting is oversaturation. You know, what, Solo? They should start calling these things not another Star Wars story. In other words, Solo, not another Star Wars story. Rogue One, not another Star Wars story. You know, instead of a Star Wars story, just call it not another Star Wars story, because that's how people are starting to feel. You know, when I was watching the Avengers and the Solo preview came on, there was no electricity in that room for that movie. There was no hyper, you know, craziness that used to happen. You know, when we used to see a preview, you know, for a Star Wars movie, it used to be exciting. Now it's not fucking exciting. It's only exciting because, to some people, because it's just exciting by association. It's Star Wars, so we're supposed to be excited about it. But there's nothing behind it. There's no stakes to it. This is about Han Solo. We know he's not gonna fucking die in the movie. We know Chewbacca's not gonna fucking die in the movie. We know that Lando Calrissian is not gonna fucking die in the movie. You know what I'm saying? And the other characters, who gives a shit about them? We're only going in there for the people who are going in there. I'm not, but you're only going in there to see the characters that you think you love. But that's not what you're going to get. I can at least tell you that. You know, like I said before, I can't say that the movie is just going to fucking suck, but I can tell you it's not going to be what you think it's going to be. I can tell you that. It's not going to be Han Solo that you come to know and love, because this is not what Disney Lucasfilm is doing. They're on a mission to further this anti-social injustice warrior bullshit agenda. You know, that's what they're doing, and they're doing it relentlessly. So you can expect that you're going to get more of the same with this movie. So, listen, my appeal is to all Star Wars fans. I don't care if you like that movie or not. It's like you have to keep in mind, and I want you to understand, that the people who are running the ship right now, the Kathleen Kennedys and Hidalgos and Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams, you know, all these people have contempt. They have contempt for us. They don't respect us. Because if they did, they wouldn't make the kind of comments that they make. They would understand the fandom. They would understand our passion. They would understand our knowledge of the material and our love for the material. They would understand that, and they would handle it a lot more differently than they are. but that's not what we're getting. We're getting attacks. We're getting disrespected, you know, and it's time for the fans to unite. This is our house. They're the ones who infiltrated. They need to get the fuck out, and we need to be clear about that. Now, I don't use the term boycott or girlcott. All I'm saying is that I'm making a personal choice to stop feeding the beast, because that's what it's become. It is a beast, and it's feasting on our passion and our love for what we once had in Star Wars, but we no longer have, if you really look at it. The questions that a lot of people are raising are legitimate. You know, the objections to how they're going about these stories. Stop feeding the beast. That's how I feel about it. And that's the choice that I made. So anyway, I think that's about all I wanted to say about that. Star Wars belongs to the fans. You know, all due respect to Mark Hamill, Star Wars does not belong to Disney. Yes, monetarily, yes. You know, and they're going to make a ton of money no matter what. But, you know, sooner or later, people are going to really begin to see in a way that makes a difference in their wallet. You know, and that's the reason why they're starting to come on YouTube and attack other people. Freddie Prinze Jr., you know, says something about the Star Wars fans being overweight white guys. You know, let me just point out real quick before I go the hypocritical racism of that type of mentality. Because if you want to stereotype Star Wars fans as overweight white guys, that means that I am beneath you. People like me are beneath you. You know, if you believe that, if you say things like that, you don't even acknowledge us as Star Wars fans. You know, I didn't like The Last Jedi. You know what I mean? So how would you address me? And how would you address women who didn't like The Last Jedi? You know, how would you address any so-called person of color or distinction or whatever you want to call it? You won't address that because you don't acknowledge that. That makes you the racist. You understand? That makes you the bigot. And then you get on, you know, camera and you want to act like you're doing something by putting out a casting call for a person of color so that everyone can just think that you're doing some shit. You know what I mean? But it's a smokescreen. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's a fake. You're a fucking phony. And that's the reason why I make the videos that I do, and so many other people make the videos that they do that span like all types of nationalities and beliefs and races and things like that. We stand in opposition to your bullshit, and you're afraid because it gains traction every single day. The more you fucking put out all of these crazy things that you're putting out, sooner or later people are going to begin to see, and they're going to begin to feel it. And it doesn't help that you have the Avengers Infinity War kicking your ass, and they're doing it with a diverse cast. You know, they're doing it with a good story. They're doing it with quality. You know, these are things that you are not doing at Disney Lucasfilm. You know, and it's funny because you're both owned by Disney, but for some reason Marvel can get the job done, but you fucking can't. But anyway, you know, it's late. Like I said before, I worked very long hours today. So I think that I've said enough here. You know, I'm going to probably address this again, but that's all I can say about this now. So, you know, for everybody who's in the trenches, everybody who's on the front lines, you know, everybody who knows better, as always, I say to you, this is the Gospel According to Mark with a C. Rock on!